Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us and thanks for waiting. Myself, Kay Murray, and Luis Miguel Echegaray are here. He has fallen asleep at the Snarfest. That may be waiting to come on. Maybe because it was 0-0 between Liverpool and Chelsea. Guys, the reason we're just a little bit delayed, it probably won't come as a surprise to you, is that Stevie Nicol was supposed to be on with us today. And you may remember he got lost in the woods this week. He's got lost somewhere in the system. We can't seem to get him here in the show. So we're going to have to continue without him. But there's still a lot to talk about. One thing we don't get to talk about, though, LME, is goals, because there weren't any in this one. And I almost wonder, given the form of the two teams, if we should be surprised about that.
Just like Stevie Nicol being lost in the woods, in the digital woods, Kay Murray, I was lost in this match out of boredom. My God, this game was awful. It got a little bit better in the second half, but now almost 400 minutes in this encounter between Liverpool and Chelsea, where there's no goals, Kay. I'm just so amazed. And listen, yes, granted, injuries from both sides, including Liverpool, of course, and Chelsea using a few young players, but there's no excuse for this. I mean, it was pretty pitiful. I think it took almost 40 minutes for Liverpool to even get a shot. Mudryk, I think, gave us the biggest highlight coming on. He looks like a nice little player that he's going to help out Chelsea. But overall, okay, this was a very disappointing performance. And the happier of anything is really the likes of Brighton and Brentford, who can just look at these two teams and go, they're there for the taking. And so is the top half of the table.
Yeah, you're talking about the top half of the table. Watching this game, it felt like people were joking, saying, oh, it feels like two mid-table teams in action. That's literally what it is right now. It's two mid-table teams in action. You mentioned Mykhailo Mudryk. He did look so good whenever he got the ball, when he came on. And I don't think that's anything of a surprise when we see and what we have seen of him in the games that we've seen him play. I mean, for myself, I've mentioned it before on here. I saw him play for Ukraine against, I think it was Scotland in World Cup qualifying. Every single time he got hold of that ball, it was something special that he did with it. It was something positive. It was something purposeful. And he really stood out. And when he got on that ball for the first time today, we saw what he was able to do in that tight space as well. Milner soon learned who he was too. So I suppose that's a big positive sign for Chelsea, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely spot on. I think he's going to be one of these players, to your point, that's going to cause a little bit of nerves to the opponent. In fact, I think he was the only one from the Chelsea side, at least today, as soon as he came on, the only one that truly tested that back line of Liverpool, which, by the way, looked very shaky. And I think overall, Kay, you can say that in this game, in a 0-0, in a stalemate, Chelsea, Graham Potter can be the happier of the two managers, because to go to Anfield and deny Liverpool scoring, which, doesn't happen very often at Anfield, is a very good thing. Obviously, Potter has been dealing with a lot of injuries, a lot of criticism, a lot of money has been spent. So to win at least a point, earn a point at Anfield against a competitor, like you said, in the mid-tables, is a good thing. So the likes of Mudryk can only help their cause. For Liverpool, Kay, what did you make of them? Because I think that there's well done to Jurgen Klopp, by the way, his 1,000th match with Liverpool. But I think there's also a bit of a 7-year itch situation with the German manager. I'm a bit worried for Liverpool. And it's not just about Klopp. I think it's the lack of recruitment, the instability of the fact that obviously the owners are looking to sell. And today was a perfect example, in fact, a parallel of what's going on outside of the pitch. This is a club right now that is struggling to find its identity. Yes, obviously, the likes of Virgil van Dijk now there. Darwin Núñez is not completely consistent right now. Mohamed Salah is very quiet. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen with Firmino, etc. But this is a team that really needs a wake-up call. And I'm a bit worried, Kay, because guess what? European competition returns very soon, and the schedule's only going to get tougher.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, when you say that with Salah, because it just feels as though when it comes to him, everything just seemed that little bit off today. And even when you look at the players that Klopp didn't use, so he did make some changes. But he did have Trent, Fabinho, Matip, Hendo, all on the bench. Now, these were his reliable go-to players. I think that's another big part of it. There is this, when you've had these players that you could rely on and that you just did, it was just there, it was just set. You just knew that every week you could do that. That's going to be tough for Klopp. As you mentioned as well, his 1,000th game in charges, which is why I thought, I had a feeling Liverpool might get the win here today.
Yeah, me too.
The fact that a goal would come at Anfield, the fact that it was his 1,000th game. I thought Darwin Núñez coming in, that might spark something. I really did. Didn't think Robertson played too badly at all in this game. But just for me, just I mean, nothing really stood out too much for them. That's the problem. And it just felt like even Cody Gakpo, and obviously we saw just how good he was in the World Cup, just wasn't coming off for anyone. And do you know what? You could say that at both ends of the pitch, to be fair, Luis, that every time a shot was there for the taking, everything was just like kind of off target. Everything just it was a very mid-table team looking, just to go back to that. It just feels as though both of them are a little off their game. Now, we're seeing other leagues come back and we can say, okay, these teams haven't been playing together for a while. They're going to be a bit rusty. They're going to be a bit out of form. But the Premier League teams have been back in action. They've been playing cup games and things too. That's why it's really hard to see this at the moment. And I know there are injuries. And I know if Stevie was here, he gets very down when he sees Liverpool like this, but he'll usually find a reason to find a positive, or at least why it is. He'll usually find a decent excuse for them. So it would have been interesting to know what he was going to say with this today. But I don't know. I just feel like, maybe to come away with a point when Chelsea did have some of the chances it did. Obviously, there was that Kai Havertz goal. It was offside as well. Maybe they got lucky there. But then I feel with Chelsea that with how slow Liverpool started, they really should have made more of that. They really should have taken advantage. And I do wonder if Graham Potter's going to be sat at home thinking, we didn't take the chances when we had it against a Liverpool side that are definitely, I mean, not even 75%, let's be honest.
Yeah, 100%. Let's look at these two teams right now on what is happening. You mentioned it perfectly. It's a mid-table fixture, and that's exactly what's happening. If I'm looking at the table literally right now, Liverpool in 8th, okay, because of that point, but obviously Brentford, can obviously match up to that, and Chelsea remain in 10th. Both have, Liverpool has 8 wins, so does Chelsea, 5 draws just like Chelsea, and only 1 extra for Chelsea with a loss just because they have an extra game. Okay, so that tells you a lot about where they are right now. Here's the thing. Last summer, Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp were questioned about, do you think that you need to strengthen specifically in the midfield? And Jurgen Klopp was like, no, I think we're good. And then later on, he admitted to the fact that, no, I think it was a mistake. And Cody Gakpo coming in, like you said, he was great in the World Cup. But is that what they needed? Is that what they truly needed? Because I looked at that midfield today, and I'm not impressed. Yes, granted, a few of the young players were given a nod just because of what they were doing in the League Cup. And like you said, the bench that Jurgen Klopp relies on, was not present from the get-go. But that is alarming to me about Liverpool's not just performance today, but what's going to happen in the future. Forget winning the title, obviously, because the likes of Arsenal, Man City, Newcastle, of course, they're doing much, much better. I'm thinking, can you even get Europe, Liverpool? And that's a big, big problem, especially when you're a club, when you're an owner that's trying to sell. For Chelsea, well, Todd Bowley's come in and he's putting his money where his mouth is. We have to wait and see if Graham Potter, like you said, I think probably is looking at this game going, I could have gotten 3 points out of this. But I tweeted this and many people were like, no, a lot of injuries, whatever. But there is something happening at the top half of the table with the likes of Fulham, Brighton, Brentford, all these clubs who are looking at recruitment, they're looking at things that are happening outside of the pitch and thinking to themselves, we can disrupt this top half of the table. And Chelsea and Liverpool are being complete victims here. And I don't know, I'm a bit worried for both of them and where they'll end up at the end of the season.
Well, do you know, it was a question on the FC show last night, Luis, as to which manager needed a win more in this game. Who would you have said going into it? Who needed the win more?
Well, at face value, you would think that the answer is Graham Potter just because of where they are at the table. They're still lower than Liverpool, even if it's by a margin of points. But actually, I think Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp needed this more than Chelsea, specifically because they were playing at home. They needed some momentum. They needed a pick-me-up, and they needed to have some kind of positive answer after all the dreary performances that have been going on, and of course, the instability that's happening outside of the club. So I think that Liverpool actually needed this more, especially because of what you said. Game 1,000 for Klopp. It's at Anfield. Everybody's hyped. They want to see a win, and it didn't happen. And I think sometimes with Liverpool, a victory sort of jolts up the momentum for the Reds, and that didn't happen today. So yes, I think that from a table perspective, you could say, look, Chelsea really need a win, etc. No, I think a point away from Stamford Bridge was a good thing for them, and Liverpool once again can't even score and not get a victory. Klopp definitely needed it more. And again, I'll repeat it again like a cuckoo clock, but I'm a bit worried about Liverpool and where they're going.
Yeah, it's really weird to see, I suppose, because of what we've been used to in recent years with him. Just, I mean, obviously with it being Klopp's thousandth match, and just seeing everything he achieved in that time, getting Mainz promoted, those back-to-back titles with Borussia Dortmund, and then every major honour at Liverpool, the Champions League. He's been to Champions League finals that he hasn't won as well. The Premier League. He holds the record for winning more competitive games against Pep Guardiola than any other manager, with 11 there. And so everybody still is believing in Klopp, I feel, that I speak to, that's surrounded by Liverpool, even people who aren't. It just feels as though it really does need some new life breathing into it. Obviously, they've been struggling with injuries, as we've mentioned, but it's just not about to get any easier. It's Real Madrid in the Champions League, and we know their history with Real Madrid. Real Madrid aren't at the best, that's to say. I mean, that's probably one of the good things, but it's just not positive looking ahead. And so even though it wasn't a loss, it wasn't a win either. So, I mean, that's not going to be great for them.
Hey, listen, but at least Real Madrid are doing something to win. We saw what happened at Copa del Rey, where they were 2-0 down, and then they got that victory. Those kind of victories jolt up the squad. Of course, there's problems, and like you said, they lost a Supercopa, of course, against Barcelona, and they're not exactly doing the best that they can right now. They're, rethinking about their squad. Camavinga might go out on loan, etc. Liverpool right now, I don't see anything. And yes, the injuries are a problem, but I don't see anything. And Klopp has already said, look, in the summer, we're going to have a massive, massive overhaul. I wonder if, I know, but I wonder if Klopp might even think to himself, have I done enough for this club now that I think it's time for me to move on? I know that Liverpool fans are probably saying, what are you talking about? But there is such a thing as 7 years you've been there, you've done tremendous stuff. Is it time for a complete reshift for Liverpool? I don't know.
Yeah, and I wonder what would be next for him if that was to be the case. Just before we do move on, we should probably mention the legend that is Thiago Silva. This is a player who just seems ageless, Luis.
Yeah. He's just one of the best centre-backs in Europe, and the fact that we're saying that at his age, representing the national team as well as Chelsea, of course. I actually questioned this move when he came to Chelsea. I was like, is this the right move? But absolutely, it's spot on. He's just Mr. Consistent. Such a good defender, such a good leader, especially off the ball. And Chelsea, I think, are very lucky to have him. And I think that probably says a lot about the other side with Liverpool when, the likes of somebody like Virgil van Dijk is not around. But Thiago Silva, one of the best centre-backs out there. And like you said, just like a fine wine, just gets better as they get older.
Yeah, it's a great point that you make with Virgil van Dijk as well, because even... so obviously you could class it as off the ball, but it's just his command of the area, and it comes under the title of leadership, I suppose, but the way he can organize the team too, and that he has that calm head about him. You need that. You need that, especially when your team are going through the tough times.
You know what, Kay? He also looks so young. It's really unfair. Why does he have this baby face, Thiago Silva? He looks like he's 23. I want some of those genes. My God.
Yeah, not a care in the world.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.